I will never be alone in my apartment again. The silence is stupefying and ringing in the ears like the rattling of glass after that incident. A friend constantly sits with me in the evenings until my parents return from work. I am escorted from school to home. I am always surrounded by people, otherwise I start to tremble. The hysteria begins, and I depart from it for a long time. It happened last summer. Me, my second cousin, and a few young guys who were her friends. We walked along the pavement. The mood was excellent, everyone except me. May constantly made me look like a fool in front of the guys, ridiculed. And they smiled embarrassedly, looking at me apparently like an idiot. May asked me about strange and incomprehensible things. I did not answer, and she laughed out loud at me. She drank some kind of cocktail, and this apparently affected her behavior. One of the boys, Andrew, kept trying to change the subject, but she brushed him off and continued her attack. She was 4 years older than me, her friends even older. But it would be better if I stayed with them and endured bullying than went home, sending my sister offendedly. So I did. Reaching the entrance, I opened the door and went inside. As the elevator took me to the 8th floor, I thought about everything that had happened. I was filled with anger and despair. It was very insulting to hear ridicule from my sister. Moreover, in the presence of guys, I honestly wanted to fill her face. My fists clenched spontaneously as another heavy breath filled my chest with oxygen. I jumped out of the elevator and nervously inserted the key into the keyhole. Music. That's what will save me. I sat on the bed and put on my headphones. There was no one at home. My parents went to the resort, leaving me with my sister. Finally, my sister came to me, and we will have parties every day. She will invite guys, we will have fun and have fun. That's what I thought when I first heard this news. I felt humiliated, but angrier. How dare she? She came to my house and does whatever she wants. Suddenly, I felt something fall in the next room, or rather, I heard this almost imperceptible impulse, the vibration of the floor. I took out one earpiece and listened, having heard nothing. I decided to check, singing merrily. I walked into the hall. I didn't see any dropped items. I went around all the rooms and also did not find anything. Something must have fallen from the neighbors, I thought, heading towards my room in a more upbeat mood than a few hours ago. I stopped half a step. Something rustled. The sound was intermittent and frequent, as if someone was hitting the wall with their palm, periodically scratching it. The sound is gone. Strange. Turning the volume down. I sat back down on the bed, but I was more alert. For a few hours, I no longer heard the characteristic sounds and calmly went to bed. The fact that my sister never came home before I went to bed did not surprise me, of course. She must be having fun with her so-called friends or drinking wine from one of them. And this made me even more hurt, but still I was able to sleep for a while. Somewhere in the 3rd hour of the night, I woke up from the same rustling. While awake, I did not attach much importance to this, but nevertheless I raised myself on my elbow and listened again. The first thought was it is necessary to arrange mousetraps, but after I felt that sound moving along the side walls and ceiling, I became eerie, as if someone were scratching their nails on the wall, gradually moving away and approaching. I also heard light and smooth steps, frequent rushing. Something was running along the ceiling and walls outside my room, and these movements were now accompanied by a more insistent rustling. I grabbed my entire blanket and, hiding my chin, held my breath in mute horror. My eyes darted along the dark walls and ceiling, following the sound. My heart was pounding loudly, and I was afraid that something on the other side would hear it, judging by the sounds. There were not 4 legs, there were many more. They quickly sorted out and made characteristic sounds. My God! I was just praying that this was a dream, Several times these legs ran over my door, but they did not open it. Tears flowed from my eyes. I hugged my knees and just waited for my prayer to be heard. Suddenly, deathly silence rang in my ears. The sound disappeared. I tried to figure out what it could be, but nothing came to mind. For about half an hour I lay in bed, not moving. Soon I tried to soberly assess the situation, although I did not succeed. The fear gradually disappeared, and now I could unclench my knees after a few more minutes. I dared to sit up in bed, and then I decided to peek out of the room with one eye. I put my feet on the cold floor, shiveringly walked over to the switch and turned on the light in the room. The silence still rang. It was hopeful. Reaching for the handle, I opened the door. My eyes, still well oriented in the darkness, picked up some movement in the corner of the ceiling. This is something lurking in the darkness of the apartment. I felt dizzy and felt like I was about to faint. But hell, my legs held me tight, and my mind calmly watched my inner tongue hysteria. My eyes have probably doubled in size. I looked at things that I now regret and will regret for the rest of my life. The light from my room illuminated the gray dead skin of individual parts of the body. It appeared to be covering the legs, but I soon realized that a pair of hands were also present. It was like a spider that raised its knees above its head. From the door suddenly opened by me, the creature turned its face towards me with lightning speed. The neck was unnaturally twisted, and the dead skin was covered with numerous folds. Face. It was May's face, twisted in cold, frozen horror. The muscles in her throat contracted intermittently, as if she was struggling to swallow air. Her mouth was open and her lower lip was bitten. It was scary to look into my eyes. They had no bloodlust or the desire to devour me on the spot. They were terrified and remorseful. The words sorry were reflected in them on the right side of the face. The skin was saggy, as if it had been melted like wax. Now the eyes rolled back under the eyelids, and only the whites were visible. They twitched convulsively, as if they wanted to return to their previous position. I watched this picture for several seconds, until I was distracted by a sharp movement of her hand. The wrist was broken and tipped back. She trembled and tapped on the ceiling, making the same rustling. Now it was more distinct. Remembering now, it seems to me that she asked me for help and asked me to open the door then. But she didn't do it herself, because she was afraid to scare me. Tears froze on my cheeks, and it seemed to me that this last second of the frozen position of her body was eternal. Suddenly her face contorted beyond recognition. Her eyebrows rose. Her mouth twisted in terrible surprise. The larynx was still swallowing air, and the hand began to twitch more frequently. Her legs and arms took a few steps forward towards me, and I saw her entire body. It was bent in an arc. The shoulders and hips were twisted. Additional ugly limbs with finger-like appendages protruded at the location of the ribs. Her head hung down. I felt that now she was moving towards me. And so it was. It moved its broken arms and legs and quickly crawled towards me. Bypassing the ceiling, I ran into the room without making a sound and slammed the door. Leaning against her with my whole body, I screamed. I just squealed and cried, and even I was deafened by my scream. Soon my voice broke, and I just hissed with all my might, without noticing it. His chest ached from the mad beats in his heart. The creature ran across the door and I started to get chills. It wasn't even going to enter my room, it was just running around. They found me on the floor. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. The first person I saw was the neighbor upstairs. She bowed her head over me and looked at me with a sad face. A few seconds after I woke up, I jerked violently and accidentally hit the old woman. But she hurriedly took my hand and tried to calm me down. I could not speak, but only made strange sounds like mooing. Grandma told me that my screams must have been heard in the next house. She knocked on our doors, but I just screamed. She had to call the Ministry of Emergency Situations. They opened the doors, but by that time I was already lying on the floor unconscious. People were walking around my apartment. It even seemed to me that I was under the influence of drugs, and now I am in the subway. They walked, examined the apartment, shone with flashlights. Neighbors timidly looked in and whispered among themselves. When asked what happened, I could not answer. I couldn't bear it again, not even in words. I would rather die. May hasn't been heard from. Her friends said that after I left, she followed me. Andrew was even surprised that she didn't catch up with me and apologize, because that's why she left the guys. The case of her disappearance hung for 6 months, but then it was shelved. My parents came the next day, but I didn't explain anything to them. I lied that I got drunk and did not remember what I was doing, because if I had told them everything, they would have sent me to a psychiatric hospital. Now I can't sit in the apartment alone. Chills begin to pound me and animal fear that this creature will return. Now I can't live like everyone else.